We all know good podcasts are worth a fortune nowadays.
Yes, we're you can make so much money.
It's a get rich
God
quick
damn it.
scheme.
All I want to do is talk about how wrong they are about podcasts on that fucking
Oh, no. So later on they get numbers and they quote a number at him and they're like we have this many. I think it feels like 50,000. Like that's like $1 million. And I'm like, no, it's not. I promise you, it's not.
It's not, but whatever.
Episode 439 of the TV Dudes, recorded June 14th, 2023, ATX TV Fest. This week, we're talking about ATX TV Fest Season 12, a.k.a. 2023, based on our true story on Max, and American-born Chinese on Disney+. But before we get to all that, I'm Randy.
I'm Les.
And I'm Nick.
I'm also almost certain that based on a true story is on Peacock.
Is it? You're right, it's on Peacock. Yes, based on a true story on Peacock.
Max isn't adding content, it's only taking it away.
That's what, honestly, that's why my brain was like, no, that's the wrong direction.
Right. It is
only
not,
Peacock adds content.
It felt like a Max show to me in that it was weirdly disappointing.
Max has
we'll
Bupkis.
Talk about all that. Yeah, that's right.
In a general sense, not the show. That's also Peacock.
Yeah, Bupkis is on Peacock, but Bupkis, yes. Anyway, yes, it was not on Max. It was on the cock.
Oh man, I think I've filed a complaint with HR about us calling it that. But
look, it's what Sebastian Stan named it. I don't argue with Winter Soldier, man. All right, so those of you who listened last week, which is probably most of you, I assume most of you are weekly listeners. If someone's coming in fresh today, they've heard the worst intro I've ever given. We lost the podcast last week. We lost the discussion with Melissa Giamonti about ATX TV Fest. We're all bummed about it. It was really good. So Les and I are going to go over our experiences again this week. It's all new to you. If we sound a little less fresh, it's because we talked about all of this last week. But it was a good festival. We do want to talk about it. And we want to get on the record, so we'll do that. But before we do all that, it is, as always, time for our appetizers. And I will go ahead and start this week. I have been in weird rewatch mode.
I would like to put in a formally request first that we switch back to, let's get to the appetizers of our show, the TV Diaries. Because I want to put back in the TV Diaries jingle. I've been trying to figure out a jingle for appetizers, and it's not happening, guys.
All right, appetizers is gone. We're back to TV Diaries.
Well, it's both. It's both. So the appetizers of the show is the segment TV Diaries.
Okay, I see. That's very weird, but okay. The only reason it's appetizers is because Grant came on once and called us out on our theming, and I was like, God damn it, he's right.
But we don't call we call it main course. We don't call it TV dinner. Like
That's true.
Well, and when I order appetizers, like I still have to tell them like what corn or whatever. That's not an appetizer. Don't order corn as an appetizer.
Les goes out for a fancy dinner and they just bring him a big bowl of corn. They're like, you have to eat all that before we bring you your steak.
Corn.
What kind of appetizer? Would you like to try our fresh onion dip or soup? You have any corn?
Corn.
I would like a bowl.
You want butter on it? No.
That butter's for side dish corn. I want appetizer corn. This is gonna be a weird show.
Two kinds of people in the world: salt corn and sugar corn.
I have this sounds like is this a Charlie from Always Sunny type thing? That seems like a Charlie from Always Sunny kind of thing. Salt corn and sugar corn. I have been on sort of rewatch lately. Stuff either that is older and I haven't seen, or stuff I'm rewatching. So I'm on the final season of Deep Space Nine. I watched about 5 episodes of that this week, including the heist episode, which is made just for me, which is a ton of fun. They pull a heist in the holodeck where Vic Fontaine, the holographic lounge singer, runs his Las Vegas 60s casino.
/ trauma therapist.
Yes, correct.
This lounge singer is getting a lot of play on this fucking
It is
show.
Shocking how well Vic Fontaine works. It should be so stupid, but it's very likable.
Wait, lounge singer heist, they just do full Ocean's 11 like Sinatra?
It is in the 60s. Basically I'm just gonna explain it. A tech working on the holosuites thought that the Vic Fontaine simulation was too boring, so he introduced what he called sort of a Jack in the Box, which was a old mob boss who came in to make it more exciting. And so the mob boss comes in and kicks Vic out of his casino and takes over. and they can't just shut it all off because that would destroy Vic's memory, and he don't want to lose his memories. So they have to actually get rid of the guy in continuity in order to reboot the simulation.
Oh my god, who wrote the code for this? The dude from Westworld?
Yes, I think it might have been the same guy. But again,
this is where Lower Decks does so well with Star Trek, because like they I'm thinking like Lower Decks is the show that would look around and like, who programs things like this?
Yeah. And they do, like in Deep Space Nine, they did that. They're like, what are you, this is the stupidest thing. And they're talking about having words with that tech, and yeah, it's great. And Cisco does not want to have anything to do with any of he's like, look, don't any of you do any work? He's like, what do you want me to come run a heist in a hollow suite? We are in the middle of a fucking war. And then, of course, his girlfriend is like, well, I'm going to go do it. And he's like, fuck. And so he does, and it's great.
Now we're doing the escape room, I guess. Now okay, fine.
Yeah, exactly right. He's like, we're in the middle of a real war, and you guys want to run a fucking escape room.
What is the work to holodeck recreation ratio on this ship? Ma'am, you do not want me to answer that.
It is better here than it was on Next Gen, I'll say that. There's also no Moriartys. There's no Moriartys on Deep Space Nine. So, but anyway,
probably the best.
That was the last one I saw. I watched a few other episodes. It's a really good show. I have heard from my friend who does a Trek podcast that the last like 10 episodes, which I'm just about to hit, are basically one big story. So I'm giving it a break when I have time to like watch a little more of it together.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
But,
that's a great way to like
one
really,
big finale.
Yeah, big like a season long finale, or
yeah,
would be a season of regular TV, but like
yeah, that's what I'm hearing. And I, of course, there's a little bit of serialized, but I hear it is basically kind of one big story as they wrap up the Dominion War and close out Deep Space Nine and book all the characters. So I also continue to watch The Simpsons season 34. There are 34 seasons of the show after seeing The Simpsons showrunner at ATX TV Fest. And guys, it's actually good again. I don't want to sell it like it's not as good as it was at its height, but the episodes I watched.
Well, I always wonder if Simpsons did it get bad, or did I just get like I think Archer is the same level of good as it's been, but I kind of dropped off of it.
No,
yep. Simpsons has been running my entire life. I mean, like yeah. Did I change or did it change?
No, yeah. Simpsons changed, y'all. Because I can go back and watch those early episodes, and there was a chunk in there where it was just not great. You know how Lost went through that period where it's like, okay, this is the backstory about Jack's tattoo. It was that. It was like we don't know what to tell these stories about. And they had to take a little while to figure out, so that's, how do we...
It's season 2 of Lost of like, we're going to pretend that didn't happen.
We're like, how do I tell a story with this 34-year-old, 11-year-old boy? And and I think the trick they've figured out in the later seasons, at least what I've seen so far, is that, we don't have to... The showrunner was talking about basically being a canon breaker. He's like, I don't care about the canon. These characters are 34 years old and they've never aged. And some fans really don't like that, but for me, like, that's what you need to do. Because the episode I watched here was Krusty is once again having trouble with his career, and a woman finds him this week she is a daytime TV producer. She's their blonde, like, horrific woman. She's been various characters in this show, but she's always like the somewhat sleazy executive woman. So her card says daytime TV producer this week, and she recruits Krusty to become a daytime TV person. And Krusty adopts a very Ellen-like persona in that he looks like fucking Ellen. And Marge gets roped into a focus group and has all these really cute, dumb ideas because she's the ultimate housewife, and all these ideas for segments. And so she gets hired as a segment producer, and we see just how terrible it is working on these daytime shows. Basically, they use this as a 30-minute excuse to talk about how shitty it was to work on the set of Ellen. It was great. It was so much meta humor.
That is Dan Harmon level of bitching about your job.
That's great.
It was great, and it's so funny and so dark. The segment producer in front of her, when she's in the middle of a focus group, and the woman's like, I have been looking for a segment producer, and the guy taking the notes is like, you have? She's like, oh yeah, one thing, you're fired. And he's like, I'm free, and he runs away. Great. Anyway,
that's great.
After that, they did a full episode of It, where it was a teenage Marge and Homer and comic book guy and Moe and I think Lenny or Carl. I don't remember which one's Lenny and which one's Carl. As the Losers Club. And Krusty,
they were separated? I'm actually shocked that they were not together.
And Krusty as the evil clown. Yes, exactly. And it's a whole episode riffing on It, and it's great. It was really fun.
Dude, those are some of my favorite episodes. One of my favorite Simpsons episode is the Hamlet episode.
Yeah, the stuff that changes. That's the way. And then I watched just by accident, I was watching in an order. They did the Treehouse of Horror this year, where they did a Babadook episode, which was great.
Awesome.
They did a Death Note episode with an anime style, which was great.
Oh
And
wow!
and
I can only imagine.
They closed out with Westworld, but it was Simpsons World. And that is one of those shows you can only do if you've had 30 years of continuity, because basically all the different Homers, like Homer and the Moo Moo, all the characters from various stories are walking throughout the park as like Simpsons interactive episodes. It was a blast, and basically, Homer gets damaged and gets fully aware, and then they do the whole Westworld thing. But it was one of those things like, oh,
Nice.
this is really smart. This is what you use the Simpsons for. So I'm kind of excited. I'm learning that there's probably 10 seasons of The Simpsons I can watch now.
Wait, I'm a robot? Yes, you're a robot. Have you noticed that your children never age?
But yeah, so I recommend, based on the 4 episodes I've watched, I recommend season 34 of The Simpsons. Worth a look back in. I am making my run through The Good Place. I finished up season 2. I'm halfway through. No, I finished up season 3 as well. My Netflix ended, so I went to my actual Blu-rays. So I'm going to watch all the extra special features and stuff. But basically, I just put a Blu-ray in each in the morning, and then that day I maybe watch 5 episodes, and then I'm done and don't have to change out the discs. So I'm experimenting with not streaming TV. That show is always great to watch. I watched a random couple episodes of Cutthroat Kitchen, which is always fun. I watched the 2 episodes back of It's Always Sunny, season 16, which, speaking of shows that should not be this good after being on this long, did y'all see any of this? Have you watched any of the most recent?
No, I haven't seen It's Always Sunny in years. I understand it's still going strong and really solid.
It's still funny as shit. So the first one is about inflation, which none of them understand. Dennis and making inflatable furniture, because that's how they're dealing with inflation. And Charlie has some weird investment idea. The second one is called Frank Shoots Every Member of the Gang. And it's basically Dennis and Dee trying to take Frank's gun away and how that goes.
Dark, but also pretty funny.
And he does, in fact, shoot every member of the gang in that episode.
Well, I would hope so. That's just a promise of the premise right there.
Right.
Like,
yeah, that show is still hilarious and weird and dark. I had my friend Morgan over. She was out of town, so I had her over to watch the Ted Lasso season finale again. Cried my way through that again. That one, I can't wait to rewatch the whole thing at some point soon. I watched all of season 4 of Never Have I Ever, which was a good farewell to Netflix. Ended well, very funny. John McEnroe turns out to be a great narrator. That makes 2 McEnroe references in my shows this week, which is weird. And I always liked Never Have I Ever, and I thought it was a really good show, and thought that they did a really good job with their ending. Then I watched all of Based on a True Story. I'm not entirely sure why. We'll talk about that. And I went to the theater to see Transformers: Rise of the Beast, which I really enjoyed.
Good to know.
I hear that.
Yeah, no, I dug it. I mean, it's dumb Transformer stuff, but it's closer to Bumblebee than the other Transformers.
Well, good.
Which is what I need to hear.
That's it's Bumblebee was very much in the 80s. This one is very much in the 90s.
Ooh, that makes sense. That's when the Beast Wars cartoon was.
Well, I've never seen an episode of Beast Wars, and I still really enjoyed this.
Oh, well, wait till we get to our TV diaries.
Oh yeah.
Because guess what I made Les watch?
I mean, it's your turn. It's go to it.
So yeah, we watched. There's a bunch of Transformers shows, but on Tubi you can find all 3 seasons of Transformers Beast Wars, and then the 2 seasons after that, which was Beast Machines.
You can find those.
And so yeah, we watched the first episode of that, and it is one of the first shows, along with Reboot, that tried to do the 3D technology the entire way through.
I remember that.
It is worse than Beyond the Mind's Eye. It is worse than Reboot, I think, in some ways. Not necessarily in the storytelling, just in the animation's just difficult to watch. Babylon 5's cutscenes look better.
They still are time traveler, they still travel to the past to an ancient Earth and all that sort of jazz. What I did notice is that they can use, because of the 3D modeling, they use tactics more in their fights. They provide cover fire, they use high ground, and sort of I mean, in the 80s, it's not like they didn't have strategies, but usually it was a bunch of fucking Transformers shooting at each other.
Yeah. Yeah, the fights really do, like, they are not just like the
they
way
take
they
cover.
look, but yeah, the way they're played out, the way they're choreographed is different.
Yeah, it feels more like a war, you know.
Okay.
That's pretty much all the nice things you can say about it, because it is pretty rough looking. We also watched quite a bit of Justice League content on Max.
Well, before we leave Beast Wars and Beast Machines, we can't talk about those like they're the same. Beast Machines is,
yeah, sorry.
Beast Machines ruins Optimus.
So, but we didn't actually watch.
We didn't actually watch it. We didn't actually watch it. It was just Nick explaining to me like what they do here, and then I heard him say the line.
Tubi plays a scene from these shows on an autoplay, right? So we watched a scene from Beast Machines, and it reminded me, oh right, Optimus is insufferable in these fucking.
Well, you had told me about the line, and then before the scene was over, he actually said it of like, and that's what it means to truly transform. Like, oh my god.
To say when I am transformed.
I am transformed. Yes, the true transformation comes from within.
Hippy dippy
Randy, I didn't know if you knew that.
Bullshit, like meditation. He's in a meditation yoga stance as he's saying it. It's like they turn fucking Optimus into your yoga instructor trying to tell you about to maintain the core energy.
Yeah.
But it's the only series I know of that treats them that they're actually cyborgs. They integrate living tissue into them.
Okay, that's weird.
Because they're on Cybertron, but they time travel again, getting back from their planet, from the planet they were on in the first show. And Megatron gets there before them, enslaves the entire planet. So anything that runs on anything mechanical, anything non-organic life, is immediately can be taken in control of by Megatron. So they have to like actually incorporate organics into their structure so they can fight back. Which is why they're animals on Cybertron, because there's really no other reason to be. There's no reason for them to be animals in the fucking on the Beast Wars cartoon. There's like they're not hiding. What are they hiding from? The rhinos?
Well, they don't want the town meeting of the rhinos to out them as robots.
Hold on, those cheetahs are looking at us. Wait, don't transform yet.
Well, and everybody knows that animals just go off blurry sight, not the smell of metal or. They are weird entries into the Transformers canon. I gotta say,
they are interesting. They were
glad
interesting.
I saw a little bit of them though. Fucking strange.
I mean, I know you guys grew up. They were the ones I grew up with, and it was weird growing up with them. Okay, it was. I did like Rat Trap. I'm like, oh yeah, Rat Trap always was bitching because he is legitimately a scientist. He is not a soldier, and he's bitching about being part of this war the entire time. So I should just go kill these people because you say so? Who died and made you Optimus Prime? Oh shit.
No, I answered it. It's fine.
Sorry, he's Optimus Primal.
Yes. Yeah, this was covered in the movie in like one line. It's very weird. I know the deal. I know there's some kind of weird like somehow Optimus Primal is in the future and he knows who Optimus Prime is. And they do a thing, but literally in the movie, it's like Optimus Primal runs into him. He's like, "I am named after you, a great warrior. I'm from your future." Anyway, and that's it. Like that's all the explanation you get. That is it.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? That's the right move.
That's the right move.
I did not need a whole explanation.
You notice how they kind of just said that Cable was just from the future in the Deadpool 2? Like, that's definitely the right move there. You don't want to actually get into what the deal with Cable is.
Yeah, you're like, he's like, my name is Cable. My name is Nathan Ascani's son. Oh, what does Ascani's son mean? Well,
why are you taking such a deep inhale?
Why are you taking such a deep breath? Well, there's a lot of information. So your parents are Cyclops and Jean Grey? Well,
you see, that was interesting about that is that. Did you know that Jean Grey and Cyclops have clones? Well, God damn it, I hate Cable.
And you have telekinetic powers? Well,
so where do the demons come in? Okay, well,
Cable feels like a troll for X-Men fans to make it impenetrable for your friends to tell friends about why you like the X-Men.
Yes, Cable is is like the test that you give your girlfriend to make sure she really likes the X-Men. Like it's that kind of shitty behavior. It's like oh yeah, you say you like X-Men, but let me tell you about Cable. If you still like the X-Men after I explain Cable to you, you're a true X-Men fan.
Cable is the toxic masculinity gatekeeper of the
litmus test. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and if you pass that, then they'll start explaining to you about Mr. Sinister and Apocalypse and their backstory.
Oh Christ!
I feel like the only way to explain Mr. Sinister is through mansplaining. You can only mansplain.
You can only
Sinister.
mansplain him. That's correct. Yeah.
What were we talking about? Beast Wars.
Beast Wars.
Beast Wars.
Yeah. We also watched a bunch of Injustice or Justice League. Started with Injustice because Les was watching that.
Somebody
and I
had
joined
shared I saw a clip from some DC animated movie that I had not seen that featured a lot of Plastic Man, and I was like, "What the fuck movie have they released that I missed?" Because it's hard. I mean, honestly, when you try to go through Max, you'll do pretty well for a while. Like you'll hit like 3 in a row. They're like, "Man, these are good. This is really good," and then you'll hit one animated completely differently that's just a shit show. And so I, at some point, trying to rewatch these, I had stopped. Anyway, I missed out on the Injustice movie somehow. I think someone's going to correct me if I watch this on a previous episode.
I forgot they did that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they veer. I've not played the game. I've not really read a lot of the comic, but apparently they veer from it. I don't care. This was really well done, especially compared to dark ass shit like Apocalypse War, where they just like.
Okay.
We watched a scene from Apocalypse War right after watching Injustice.
Yeah.
And instead of giving me like a story where horrible things happen, but there's motivation behind it and people get redeemed, we watched like a still frame scene of just, hey, did you ever want to see the legs torn off Captain Marvel?
Not really.
Not really. I feel like the kid with the worst home life at the skating rink is lecturing me. What the fuck, man?
Well, because in Injustice, and the reason it's better is that it also goes dark and has an evil Superman and people die in it. But they actually focus on consequences of it. What does it do to the League? What's the fallout like? Who pulls out? Like the Lanterns kind of just fuck off from Earth. Atlantis is like, yeah, I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing. It sounds like shitty to me. And when Nightwing takes a hit wrong from Robin, like it's not a big like I'm gonna kill you for my ideals. It's just because they are fighting, he takes a hit wrong.
Yep.
And gets killed.
Yeah.
So
that is in the comics. The comics, by the way, are by Tom Taylor, my favorite comics writer.
Yeah, who I love.
And his stuff informed like more so than the story of the movie or the game. That's what I'd be interested in, is making sure how they compare to the comics.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. The animation
took
him
Nightwing Deadwing. They make him Deadman in that universe.
Yes, they do. Yep.
Which is pretty cool. Like,
because he's also he's an acrobat.
Yeah, no, I kind of love it.
Because Injustice, because it's a different universe. There's always like, what's different about this universe? Well, Boston Brand isn't dead, so that means there's a job opening. And also, you see Batman deal with Nightwing's death, like actually grieve it, and then Catwoman actually fucking helps him through it.
Oh man, that's a really great scene.
This is the difference between this and Apocalypse War. You take a tragedy that wouldn't happen in the normal continuity, but you take advantage of it and see what things you can't show in the regular continuity. You can't show Catwoman helping him grieve through Nightwing's death. Like, would she actually be there for him when it counted? And showing that level of it. And, Batman really being wrong about Superman. Like, he's lecturing the Joker like, you idiot. He'll always be the best man I know. And how fucking wrong he is. And how, like, he really holds Clark to a high standard.
Yeah.
And is genuinely wrong. And then Clark, fucking Clark, what did he say to him, Les, at one point? What made Batman forget he was talking to Superman and punch him in the face? Talking about his dead parents or something.
Yeah, he says something like,
your parents were dead the entire time. What's your excuse?
Yeah, that's what that like,
it was something
my
fucked
parents
up.
loved me. What, your parents were dead the entire time. And Batman just like swings and hits him square in the chest and breaks his hand.
Yeah.
And it's like, you just realize like, wow, that's like a half second of Batman losing control. And it so matters because you've played Batman correctly the whole rest of the time.
Yeah.
And it's a really big, and it's even better than anything the Snyderverse does, because it's selling this relationship between the two of them and how important it is and how a big deal it is that it's falling apart.
Well, I mean, the whole thing does wrap up because he says Martha.
I mean, they steal that.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That is not how Injustice is.
No, I love Batman's big gun by the end of it. Like his workaround at the end is actually pretty smart.
Yeah. And
then, of course, you get to see Batman also be kind of a dick because he takes out Cyborg with a virus or whatever. And Cyborg backdates the virus like, wait, when did you put this on me? The day we met?
And it like shows them shaking hands of like, good to welcome you to the League.
Welcome
and,
to the League.
Wait,
like,
that's when you virus infected me? You fucking dick.
Yep.
Look, this isn't about me, all right?
It's not about who's never trusted who.
Let's not get into who has back a Tower of Babel plans about everyone here, all right? Let's not pretend we don't all have files on how to kill everyone in here.
It's that Mo and Lisa Simpson that like I've never liked you and you've never liked me. I like you.
Yeah.
I've always liked you too, kid.
Oh. Okay. And yeah, that led us down a path of watching some of the other movies we had not seen or hadn't seen in a while, like the Justice League Fatal 5, which they will never, ever do a Legion of Superheroes movie completely. Even the one they just did is more of Supergirl's the main character, rather than anyone in the Legion. And Fatal 5 does the same thing. Like, the Fatal 5 are from the future, and you see a minute or two of the Legion, and that is about it. And then Starboy hangs out for the rest of the movie. But what's cool about that one is that it's a direct sequel to Justice League Unlimited, in the Justice League cartoon, the Bruce Timm universe, and gets all the same voice actors back. It looks exactly the same.
Yeah. Yeah, when Batman shows up, it's neat.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Like the ear, everything, it's all perfect.
And they focus on Jessica Cruz, who is an interesting Green Lantern, considering it's a Green Lantern with depression and post-traumatic stress disorder. Like,
yeah,
pretty interesting. And then that led us down to watch Beware My Power. Was that the other one we watched? Yes, that's what it's called.
Jon Stewart.
The Jon Stewart one, yeah, where Jon Stewart gets to becomes Green Lantern, which also was very good, but much better animated than Injustice as well. Like, the fights in that were really good. It teams up Green Arrow and Green Lantern more, which is always fun. I don't know why that pair up always works, but can't be just because they both have green in their name.
Well, and it's not just like Hal and Ollie. Like,
oh no, there's a lot of, like, again, all these movies, they don't seem to, like, they have a lot of other characters. Like, Adam Strange has a big role in it. Yeah. Fucking Hawk Girl, big role in it. But yeah, the of course they have to take some shortcuts, like, oh shit, Oa's destroyed. Wait, all of it?
Every lantern, every sector.
Yeah, the whole Green Lantern Corps went down. Wait, they wouldn't all be on Oa. They all, like, rotate the sectors. Like, I wouldn't think even half of them. Look, they're all gone, okay? We gotta tell a story here.
Don't worry about it.
Let me just get all the way off your back about it then.
Get all the way off that thing. That was it for Justice League stuff I think we watched. We also went to the theater and saw The Machine.
That's Machine.
Yeah, what is that?
So, Les, you want to explain it?
Sure. Bert Kirchner, big shirtless stand-up comic. Very, very bro-tastic frat dude stand-up comic. He's all right on stage. Tells a couple of stories that are like more than like a delivery of a joke stand-up comic. He's a guy who has survived a lot of just really crazy shit. Randy, I actually remember, you may remember reading this article. Like 94, Rolling Stone put out an article about party schools. Florida State had been elected top party school in the nation. And they did this weird expose with this crazy, like 6 or 7 year undergrad. And it's this dude.
And it's him.
And he's a stand-up comic now that does podcasts and crap. Anyway, he tells this story about being 22 and going on a college field trip to Russia. For various reasons, he has taken 4 semesters of Russian without learning any Russian or ever having to do anything. The teacher's just giving him a C.
Because there needs to be one more person in the one less person in the class, and they have to cancel the class.
But
the
teacher
doesn't get their masters.
Yeah, they're teaching it to get their masters. If he drops, they'll end the class. So they're just like, look, just sit the fuck back down, and I will give you a C.
Just sit down, and I'll give you a C.
And he talks to me. He's like, do you know how hard it is hungover to do tests in Russian when you don't know the Cyrillic alphabet? I'm just making up fucking hieroglyphics. Anyway. Kind of a similar deal. They drag him along to this field trip to Russia because they're like, if you go, we'll get a better, we need more students on it and everything, and you'll get a minor. He's like, fuck. So he has a minor in Russian from Florida State after 7 years. The way that Russia works in the 90s, there's mob everywhere. They assign 2 mobsters. Like, you have to pay like a different mobster in St. Petersburg. There's a different mob that runs the train. There's a different mob that runs Moscow. You have to pay each of them, and they kind of put a guy with you. And you're just not supposed to talk to the guy, right? Just leave him alone. And of course, this drunk 22-year-old's like, they're the only fucking people I want to party with. Like, screw the Russian club.
Now all I want to do is talk to that guy.
Yeah. So through being just a really funny, charming, drunk idiot, he charms his way into the St. Petersburg mob, and they hand him off to the train mob, who hands him off to the Moscow mob, and it's insane.
By the time he gets there, he's a legend.
Yes. They've robbed the train. Like, they've robbed they've robbed the bar car, then they robbed the whole train, including his class, including his bag. Like, it's fucking crazy. So anyway, now he's our age, and has kids and shit. So there's now a movie where they take it fictionally, like something they stole from the train was crazy important to some Russian mobster. And because of him telling this on stand-up tours and shit, they hear about him and come and kidnap him to tell them where the fuck it is. And Mark Hamill plays his dad. And so it's this big goofy stand-up comic and Mark Hamill being dragged around Russia by the mob, just killing shitloads of people.
Yeah.
Weirdly funny. I laughed several times. It is dumb as shit. Casting Mark Hamill is truly their coup de grace. He just makes the movie. There's a lot of underwritten moments where you're like, there was a payoff to a joke there. Y'all just, okay, we're just moving on.
Yeah, they do a setup for a couple jokes that don't pay off for some reason, and I'm not really sure why.
Yeah, it feels a little half-written at points, and so, I mean, I don't know, it feels like an older style of movie. It feels like a dumb 80s comedy. But I cracked up a couple of times. There's a lot of good, just gross out, pratfall, stupid, really weird fight scenes where, like, you've got a couple of people who just don't know how to fight or use a gun. Mark Hamill on a lot of drugs is hilarious. Dad, why are you talking like you're on speed? Because I'm on speed and it's fucking fantastic. They gave me something yellow. I don't know. One of them was a yellow pill. Did you wear a condom with that hooker? I mean, yeah, Mark Hamill is just a monster in it. He's fucking great.
Why do you remember that? Like, you have a shitty memory, but suddenly you can lock that in. Like, it's like, yeah, because you called mom a missionary woman, Dad. That sticks with a man.
Any conversation you start like that sticks with me. Yeah, the whole movie's just insane. The Machine.
All right.
You can also look up, like, the 12-minute stand-up bit on YouTube.
Yeah. We also watched Renfield, since it hit Peacock.
Yeah, since it's on the cock.
I was getting bad vibes off that one.
You were right.
Dude, I couldn't believe how much of a mess that movie is.
It is a complete mess. I mean, like...
Wait, I'm sorry. You couldn't believe that a movie in which they just told Nicolas Cage to play Dracula however you want was a mess?
Well, there's no other thing to tell Nicolas Cage to do. I mean, he's just going to do what he does.
What's weird about it, Randy, is that he's not in a lot of it. Like, if it was a Nicolas Cage movie, you'd be like, okay, it's a total mess. I get it. But he's seriously in, like, I want to say 15 minutes of this movie.
Okay.
He steals
like, they had him for
minutes.
2 days of shooting.
Does, yeah.
And Awkwafina is a completely unnecessary character.
Yeah. Like, not only is she unnecessary, the little bits of story that they do give her make really no sense and tie back to really nothing. It's infuriating. Afterwards, Nick and I were like, so I don't feel like they spent enough time with the support group to really sell me on that relationship. They didn't spend enough time with Nicholas Hoult and Awkwafina to sell me that. They didn't really spend a lot of time with Hoult and Dracula or Ben Schwartz and Dracula. We didn't spend enough time with
Ben Schwartz as the new familiar to get,
like, what the fuck did happen in this that they didn't
It's like,
spend
wait,
time
what did they spend time on then?
Like, a couple of scenes of some arm rip-offs, but even that, they don't quite go where they could. Though there is a great face snatch moment that's just great.
Yeah, Les noticed halfway through the movie, like, oh shit, the gang's name is Lobos. And they got, like, wolves on their car. They're a fucking gang of werewolves. That makes so much sense. Because
like, Ben
they're
Schwartz is driving
with...
a car that has a wolf head painted on the side of it, snorting up the line off the sports car.
Yep.
Okay.
Because they're a cocaine-dealing family named Lobos.
But this isn't the movie to think that through and just put werewolves in it. This is the movie to think, oh, wouldn't it be cool if they had wolves, if the name was wolf-like? And that's as much thought that there's no payoff to that. They are not.
We
werewolves.
realized partway through we're like, they're not going to be werewolves, are they? Okay.
Yeah, it's insanely, and they don't even sell the abusive relationship thing of it, which is supposed to be the whole pitch, you know, that he's in a support group for abusive relationships, and because he's in one with Dracula, and they don't really sell it.
I got the next day after we watched, I was like, Nick, all I keep thinking is that somebody somewhere paid $20 to rent this. Excited. Yeah. Damn it.
Well, I'd be so mad.
I'd be so mad. Oh man. Yeah. It sucks because there are some fun moments. It's got good casting, and Nicolas Cage is a really great Dracula. And it's just a mess.
Yeah. It was we were excited, and it was disappointing as shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell you what. I watched some Lower Decks, just a rewatch in the background while we were doing other stuff. And Unicorn Warriors, caught up on an episode of that. They fucking trashed my boy Copernicus. Not cool. They're rebuilding him, but still, he's the best boy. He does not deserve that.
He's a good robot.
I love that fucking robot. God, that show is beautiful. It's really cool. I really recommend Unicorn Eternal Warriors. It's neat.
All right.
And then I showed Les Rogue, the Megan Fox Lion movie.
Sure. Those are all words.
That was actually really fun.
Told you.
The lion doesn't really turn up until the third act. Before then, they're kind of dealing with these. It's Boko Haram, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as just like mercenary team trying to get out of a shit situation, it just keeps getting worse. It was really good. Just fucking starts and moves right through its plot. Doesn't waste any time. Like.
And Megan Fox is really good in it.
She's really good at it. There's a lot of dude action stars that wish to God they could make a movie this straightforward and effective.
Okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
Like any, I guarantee, like Dolph Lundgren wishes half of his total output was anything close to this. And they do pretty well on the money they spent for the. Obviously, there's a lot of CG lion when the lion attacks, because they do a pretty good job of it being quick and vicious and really showing it off. They make good use of like.
Is there more lion than there was cocaine bear?
I'd say about equal.
About the same amount.
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. The lion like opens the movie and then is mostly confined to the end of the second act and into the third. Like basically they've got another real problem going with like Boko Haram chasing them.
Yeah, the lion is just a problem on top of a shit situation they're already involved in.
They're trying to hunker down for the night to wait out, you know, and hope they don't have to get into a firefight again, and then realize that like, wait, is that a lion? Like
one of the hostages they rescue gets eaten by a fucking crocodile, and I'm like, hey Les, remember the lion hasn't showed up yet.
God, I don't know. Oh yeah, that's right. God damn it. Wow, yeah, one of the people gets just chomped by a crocodile, and
things have not actually gotten the worst they can get.
The best moment in it, I can't remember the actor's name, but one of the team gets. He gets attacked by the lion. He gets shot. There's a lot of shit's happened to the dude, but nothing fatal yet. He's just lost a lot of blood. And for the third act, he is just decreasing mobility. Like he goes from staggering around with the gun to sitting with the gun propped to kind of laying against something with the gun on his lap, and is just getting loopier and loopier. So that like as people are yelling crazier plans and he's like, fuck yeah, man, there's a lion over there. Oh, hey, there's that dude. Pop. Fuck him.
You okay? I'm great.
Like, it's crazy. Yeah, like, how you doing, buddy? I'm great, man. I'm remarkably good.
Oh, shit, they're shooting at me.
Yeah, it is. And like, not in a...
That's okay, they missed.
Yeah, it works out great. Like, it feels like the role you'd have given Bill Paxton. Like, it feels like...
A beautiful moment where he says goodbye to his comrade as they sing
Backstreet Boys. Together. God, yeah. Dude's really hurt.
You gotta rock your body
I hate that song, but like he's singing a friend's song that they fucking hate to make them like open their eyes and like stop that. Yeah, good, really good movie. Was shocked. Also, in all the Me Too stuff, I feel like we absolutely owe Megan Fox a reprise. Like, along with all other actresses that you think you've heard a story about them being difficult. Have you?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Megan Fox is in the next Expendables, or I'm sorry, Expendables.
That's what Nick told me, and I was like, "You mean Exportables?"
Yeah. I can't wait for Expendables to fight M. Tugan. I think that's gonna be a great movie.
How is it not Emma Forgan?
But she's now joining with the action stars. I'm like, you know what? She deserves that. It's only for really working with Michael Bay. She deserves that. Yeah.
Now she's a believable soldier. She's a believable badass, like heartless leader, basically.
Nice.
Of like.
Nice.
Real, and because she's kind of right the entire time of they're like, we can't just leave the extra hostages. They're like, hey, we're not getting paid to fucking bring them, and they're gonna be extra weight on the fucking. And she ends up being pretty right about it. Like,
yeah, like all these other mercenaries look at her like, you're not wrong, but wow, lady.
Like, damn. Yeah, and that was my TV Diaries.
All right.
So I of course kept watching Elementary and Parks and Rec. Rewatched the first episode of Primo with Fanny, which we caught the machine. We watched Quick and the Dead, which we'll discuss. That's machine. We'll discuss Quick and the Dead on the Patreon. Injustice. Nick and I watched most of From season 1 in preparation for watching From season 2 on a huge binge here shortly.
That is a very good show.
It really is.
Again, I don't know how most people like. I know you're probably not going to subscribe to MGM Plus for one show, but if you did, this is definitely worth it.
It's insane and interesting and fun. I dig it. Also, the monsters are fucking horrific.
Okay.
Fanny has started watching Breaking Bad, which she's never seen, and
dude, the text you've been getting, like, I'm sitting next to Les, and every once in a while he'll get just texts about Breaking Bad, like, oh,
I can't say anything.
Yeah,
anything.
No.
She's like, I'm gonna make a prediction. Don't say anything back, but I think Hank's gonna get in on it.
Oh God! Oh no!
And I was like, Nick, how long do I have to wait before I can text anything back at all?
I'm starting to feel bad for this drug dealer in the basement that Walt's got. You know,
and I'm like, is that'd be crazy 8? Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Or God, she just watched the episode where they're in the cave and Hank shoots Tuco. And
yeah.
And that's the first time you meet Hector Salamanca.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh yeah,
I forgot that's where you first meet him.
And I texted her, I was like, yeah, that's when you first meet Hector Salamanca. And she's like, what do you mean first meet? And I was like, that old man is on so much of this fucking show.
Man, you wouldn't believe how important he seems like, because he's just a background, like, oh, that's Tuco's uncle or whatever. Like, that's just someone that's in the background.
Oh, you should see his Twitter feed. Seriously, somebody ran a Twitter for him for years. It's just ding, ding, ding.
Oh, man, that's great.
Yeah, so watching Breaking Bad's been amazing. And then knowing that there's going to be Saul after, like, she's stoked to have a show that has, like, a good long run that she's never seen.
Yeah, that both have great endings too. Like,
yeah. We also watched The Perfection, which was a really fun, crazy ass movie on Netflix, and watched The Offering, which gets listed as a Jewish movie. Feels like it has done almost no homework on that front, and is basically just a like Catholic possession demon movie reskinned with Jewish trappings. Which does make it cool.
Keep it original. Keep it pure, like Killer Sofa.
Right. I will say, like, it does make it different and cool, and I fucking really enjoyed watching The Offering. I wish they'd shot it a little darker. for as creepy and scary and much of a monster and shit as there really is, it's kind of shot a little, I don't know, bright light of day. The house is super fucking creepy that they're in.
Yeah.
But I went into it thinking, oh, cool, it's part of this new trend of Jewish horror. And there have been a couple articles that are like, so did anybody really check the Judaism on this? Because, man, you were pulling from some obscure shit to get Jewish demonology in here. But anyway, that said, I also don't feel like I've learned anything about the Stations of the Cross or Catholicism or anything from any exorcism movie. Like, so I don't know what I was supposed to learn about Judaism from this horror movie. As a fucking horror movie, I would recommend going to see The Offering or checking it out. I think it's on Hulu. I also watched Magic Mike's Last Dance, which Nick and I were discussing. I hate the word guilty pleasure. Fuck that. Watch what you want to watch. That said, there's still enough like internalized homophobia from growing up that I feel like I need to close blinds and look over my shoulder when I enjoy the shit out of Magic Mike movies. They're great.
Dude, I remember when the first one came out and my sister and a bunch of her girlfriends or whatever were like, wait, like I was like, that movie rules. Wait, you like that movie? I'm like, yeah, because that movie rules.
They're a blast. They're all three different. The third one is so weirdly different.
Is Soderbergh direct all of them?
All three.
That is crazy to me.
And they are all three very different from one another.
Soderbergh is working some shit out.
The first one has the weirdest movie structure. Like it's just about nothing and kind of flows like but works because it's Soderbergh just being a fucking master. The second one is just hilarious. And then the third one goes to London with Selma Hayek. And I don't know who to be jealous of in the relationship. Like watching Channing Tatum and Selma Hayek together is just two of the hottest people on the planet.
Dude, I've watched porn that is less sexually charged than those two fully clothed.
Right. The guys you know from the previous movies literally show up in a Zoom call and that's it. And that is disappointing. That said,
sucks.
The new movie was really fun. I enjoyed it. It's on Max right now, I think.
Okay, all right.
Treat Williams passed away, turned in front of a car on his motorcycle, or a car turned in front of him, rather. And yeah, Treat Williams passed away, 71. So we watched Dead Heat, which is about Treat Williams being brought back from the dead by Joe Piscopo, whose career
I forgot about Dead Heat.
Forgot about Joe Piscopo. So yeah, we watched Dead Heat, which is an absolutely bonkers movie. Everybody, if you've not seen,
we're talking about American-born Chinese later and unfortunate Asian stereotypes.
Oh Lord,
yikes.
Yeah.
Les, for our listeners who don't know, would you explain the premise of Dead Heat?
Sure. Piscopo and Treat Williams are two cops who are stopping a bank robbery at the start of the movie, and they put, I don't know, like a Philadelphia amount of bullets.
That's a lot.
Yeah, like an all the bullets kind of situation into these two guys, and they don't fall down. And they mention it because it's weird. Finally, I think Treat Williams runs one of them over with a car, and they blow the other one up with a grenade. And then they talk about like, hey, bank robbers shouldn't be that resilient, so they go investigate, and it turns out they find this movie prop room from another fucking film.
They stole it from a Doctor Who set.
Yeah, like Joe Piscopo steps into like an evil TARDIS, and there's this huge weird table in the middle with like a pig biker dude who's clearly reanimated. Piscopo has to fight him.
It also has kind of three faces?
Yeah, it's weird.
Man, they never explain that guy.
In the course of the fight, Treat Williams gets killed.
No, I get that you're reanimating that he's undead, right? Why does he have three faces?
Why did you sew three of them together, though? It's weird. And Piscopo Treat Williams doesn't die in that fight. He dies because he gets locked in a depressurization room where all the air gets sucked out.
To death.
And Joe Piscopo's too busy fighting the pig dude to help him. So he dies. But he dies with no tissue damage.
He has a gun that could shoot the glass out.
Right. But you know, Treat Williams dies with no like marks on him or anything, which doesn't last. But he gets brought back from the dead. Basically, he's like, I feel fucking great. From there, they kind of set about on a DOA type situation of not the fighting movie, but the track down my own killer.
Yeah.
And they try to find the people that turned on the or that run the lab and the pressurization and all that shit, and kill them. It is insane. absolutely insane. There's also like a ticking clock on how long your reanimated corpse can stay together. So like, yeah, there's fucking weird, man. In a Frighteners level, can't decide what tone it wants to be.
Oh yeah, it is weird.
I mean,
like how dark it gets sometimes.
There's a lot of, real dark, but also it's Joe Piscopo. It's absolutely insane. Yeah,
it has a great the third act though, where it's it's him making a final like assault, and he's fighting other zombie guys. So these just two guys just shooting at each other, not really doing anything. Like they're just shooting each other until they can walk close enough to punch each other. Because they're not, they're both
it's
undead.
just completely ineffective. Yeah. Fucking weird movie.
Which begs the question, why the fuck are they shooting each other to begin with?
Right. The plot, Nick. Plot. And yeah, that's about it. That's all. I think that's all I watched.
All right. Well, this is a good place to remind you that you can go over to patreon.com/tvdudes and throw us a buck an episode. In exchange, we get to keep up with our streaming services, pay for our hosting costs, and you get bonus content each week. This week, it's more DiCaprio as we talk The Quick and the Dead. And with that, let's jump over to our main course for part 2. Everybody recording? Let's make sure everybody's recording.
Yup.
And talk about ATX TV Fest, which Les and I attended this year. I legitimately checked again, even though I'm watching it scroll across my recording right now.
Same. I looked up, even though it's running right there.
Oh, I haven't checked since we started. I mean, I'm just trusting it though.
Our overall takeaway, Les, is that despite the writer's strike, I think that they pivoted really well, and this is another really good year for the ATX Fest.
Yeah. There's always going to be that year where Bonnaroo doesn't have your band at the top of the bill, or you don't like the lineup as much, but you're going for the certain spirit of a certain fest. That was still there for me, even though this year wasn't quite the shows I wanted. Like the top of the bill wasn't necessarily my, picks, and then some people dropped out. Like it didn't feel like my favorite lineup ever.
Yeah,
and I was a little afraid that coupled with being worried about whether it would, be the same in the crowds and the tone. This is a really special fest. It doesn't feel like a Comic-Con. It doesn't feel like there's not like a competitive, my show's better, I hate your show. None of that energy. And
also,
I think
all
of that was still there for me. I loved it. Yeah.
You and I, we talked about this maybe a little bit, that I think the folks behind South by and some other shows had basically purchased ATX TV Fest either this year or last year. And I think we were worried that, a bigger sponsor, a bigger company would maybe lose the
I was really
the threat of it.
Really
and
was.
I did not feel that at all. It still felt like Emily and I always blank out. Emily and Caitlin's show. I always blank on one of them. You get one name and then I forget the other one always, and it's never the same one. But I thought it still felt like their show. They still came out and introduced her.
Yeah.
Their people came out and introduced. Like, it did not feel like, oh, this is a corporate festival all of a sudden. It still feels very much like ATX.
Based on my understanding, the volunteers did not get a full access to the virtual, or that's and that seems wrong to me. I wish the volunteers got more, because they are the lifeblood of all of that. And
I had one complaint about,
I want to know they're taken care of better. So I don't know if that's real or not, but if so, and anybody's listening, please. I want the volunteers taken care of.
I talked to a volunteer who couldn't get in one of the micro sessions, even though there was room, because they had a volunteer badge, and that just doesn't. Every ATX panel you go to comes up with a thing of like, give us a round of applause for our volunteers.
Right.
Like they put the voice behind it, but they need to put like, if you have a volunteer badge, you should be able to go to anything you want, as long as it's not interfering with your duties, and you should definitely get the virtual festival, because they're not going to be able to see them. They're like, they may not get to see a panel they really want to because they're volunteering.
And
they should be able to see it later in the virtual.
I mean, it's been a couple of years, but used to, I would see the same volunteers year to year, and some of those volunteers are now staff. I see the same staff every year. Like, make it something really special in a town full of fests, where like, you want to volunteer for ATX Fest, you will have to get a couple of people to put a word in for you. Yeah,
agreed. And we're speaking as the outsiders. We haven't volunteered or that thing, but having we've been helped by numerous volunteers as we've done this, and so that was a bit of a bummer. But overall, this year they had the Cheers reunion, and Cheers is one of my all-time favorite shows. So even though the rest of the show,
Justified comeback,
and I found out about the Justified comeback too late, because I had already planned to go see Spider-Verse that night. I absolutely would have gone to see Justified, but I had my Spider-Verse tickets, so I did not see the Justified return. But I'm super looking forward to it. That was a good opening night. I definitely would have gone to that.
That's one of those things of like it's a justice for an actor that like, oh damn it, if I had been bigger around the time that show was out, I would have definitely been in it, which was Boyd Holbrook.
Yes, yeah. Boyd Holbrook is going to be amazing in that.
And I was like, yes, he finally gets to be in a.
I cannot wait for City Primeval. I'm super excited to watch it. I guess I'm kind of glad I didn't see it at opening night, because then I would have seen one episode and I'd be jonesing for episode 2 right now. Yes, so it's probably better.
Honestly, I was thinking about that too.
So I only did 2 days this year. I just did Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I still felt like I got a pretty full festival. I did pretty full days on both those days. Highlights for me, I opened my day with the Primo panel, which I would not have seen if not for the fact that one of our listeners, John Paul, hit me to the existence of Primo and that it was a Mike Schur involved show. And so I watched it and I loved it. We talked about it a couple weeks back. And so I went and rewatched the pilot with a crowd, kind of a small crowd. Like I think a lot of people didn't know what the show was, but then they brought out Shea Serrano couldn't be there because of Writers Guild reasons.
I like that there's a dude that tells the TV dudes that like, oh yeah, you should be watching this show.
Yeah, well, John Paul watches literally everything. I don't know how he does
there's a filter like below us.
Yeah, I have friends who I tell them what I'm watching. Like, how do you watch that much TV? And I'm like, oh, dude, you have no idea. You have no idea what it's like being a real TV fanatic.
Yeah, you could be putting in the work, man.
So, Cristina Vidal, who plays Drea, and Ignacio Diaz Silverio, who plays Rafa, the two big main characters, none of the uncles, but those two main characters were there, and they had a discussion after the first episode aired, and it was a ton of fun. Cristina Vidal is a fucking delight, and Ignacio is just as charming as he is in the show, and it was just a blast watching them. And I got to see both of them. They were at the Cheers read through as well, which I'll talk about in a bit, and they were just great. I expect that beyond seeing Primo season 2, I expect we'll see both of them in other things. Cristina Vidal apparently has a pretty solid career ahead of her. Behind her rather. She's been in a bunch of stuff already. And this was like just her chance to maybe get to do a little more comedy, and they talked about that. But that was a really good panel. It was a really good opener. And then I saw the AI panel, which was interesting because it was basically it was a doctor from a futurology like think tank who talked about like AI and what it was going to mean. And she didn't talk that much, which was kind of a bummer because I thought that would be a really interesting perspective. Then we had one of the actors from Upload. I think it's the best friend from Upload, which kind of makes sense for an AI panel.
Okay, sure.
And then they had the showrunner of Dickinson, who's she's a showrunner for a ton of stuff. She's been around TV forever. And then they had Javi Grillo Marxwatch, who is, as always, probably the smartest and funniest guy in the room, and he was at the AI panel. It was really interesting. Javi made some excellent points. I thought about he's like, yeah, AI maybe some point will be able to write Succession. Maybe it can't write Succession now, but it can't write Succession. But it also can't write Plan 9 from Outer Space. Like really good or really bad, AI is not going to be up to that task. And I thought that was a really good point of and that seemed to be the common thread was there was like, look, AI can do a lot of things. It's going to get better at these things, but the sort of the soul of art is going to be. I think nobody really believes that AI can produce that. I don't either, and maybe I'm kidding myself. But it was interesting for them to talk about. They're like, we were, the WG's on strike, and part of it's about AI. Like when we were first going in, that wasn't actually on the radar. It was all about the money, and then by the time we were doing the negotiating, AI was top of the list. That's how fast all of this is moving.
Sure.
It was a fascinating panel to listen to. Les, what were some of your highlights?
I also caught a panel with Javi Beyond the Page, where he and another showrunner were talking about all the things the writers do beyond that initial, writer's room, break the stories, divide up the episodes, go write them.
Right.
All the things that, panel with Javi and another showrunner talking about all the things that showrunners do beyond that initial writer's room. And then, of course, that turned into a whole discussion of, again, the writer's strike, which was obviously a dominant theme for the weekend, because they talked about all of the ways that TV does not run the way that it did even 10, 15 years ago because of streaming. So, used to, writers would work in a room, they'd break the whole season, they'd divide it up, you'd write 22 episodes or whatever. Then the show at some point during that has gone into production, and the writer that wrote that episode's going to set. If it rains and you can't do this outside and you need to now rewrite that episode so that these scenes fold into one another and blah, 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 the writer's right there. You can do it. Javi had to spend a lot of time sitting outside, sweating in Hawaii, looking at a beach like, 15 paces down that he can't go to because he's got to sit here and watch a monitor because your job is to be on set in case anything goes wrong. That doesn't happen anymore. The way that Netflix and all them run it is you get 6 months or whatever to write the thing, and then you're done with the writer's room and you hand it off, and the lowest paid person in the room is kept on, and that's it. And if even that, and they just move forward with production. And if anything fucks up or changes or needs to be changed, good luck. And so we when we wonder, man, how are these weird structural messes that feel like it changed mid-season? There is a difference in how TV's being made, and it's a huge part of the strike. So that was cool. We had press badges, so there was a lot of sitting in the industry lounge. But I spent a lot of the weekend in conversations, or listening to conversations between Bo Willimon and Javi, and just different industry professionals about this stuff, just kind of holding court separate from the panels even. Also caught a panel about indie television as a space, kind of like indie movies or indie film, which we think is totally normal. You say independent television and people are like, what?
Yeah.
And so that was cool. The Everyone is Doing Great folks that had season 1 of that, they completely produced on their own and then sold to Hulu. It's now off Hulu. They're now shopping around season 2, which they're in post-production on. I saw the screening for the first episode of that, interviewed them, which those interviews will be out soon. And then saw their panel about kind of funding and producing. They did season 1 on crowdsource. They did season 2 through private financiers that they put together. It was just really cool. Interesting, it made the fest a really neat way to hear how the industry is responding to what is just insanity lately. From a very grounded, you're watching people sit up at front going, hey, I know you think I'm famous from whatever show, but I'm also just a person with a kid who's trying to make sure that I work this year. And this is crazy. Here's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I also met Joey Lawrence, so whoa.
I didn't do any interviews this year. I didn't meet anybody. I was within feet of Ted Danson and Mary Steenburgen, but they were busy and I did not get a chance. I so desperately wanted to go up and get a selfie or talk to Ted Danson, but I was like, nope, can't be that guy. That's one of the vibes of ATX Fest. You don't fanboy out too much in there. So, but I did see their panel. Those guys have been married for 30 years. And they are a delight. They were both very charming, very funny. They talked about when they got married, they each had 2 teenagers from a previous marriage. So they both were working actors with 4 teenagers in the house, and they managed to stay married. So that marriage must be the strongest marriage in the world.
Their insurance was too good to pass up.
They were both, there was a delight. People asked about Justified, which Mary Steenburgen played one of the big bads of the final season of Justified, and there was a great question about, or someone she came up, she's like, she told him when he called her for the role, she's like, okay, but only if you give me a really good death, and they did, and she's like, and now I hear they're bringing it back, and I deeply regret my actions.
Damn it.
They talk about Joan of Arcadia, which I've never seen, but apparently that she was on that. And they revealed that Ted Danson and Woody Harrelson are working on a podcast about Cheers. We will see if that happens, but if it does, I will be first in line to listen to it. And she talked a lot about Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist, which I loved, and how apparently Mary Steenburgen is now writing music for other people, and is that's one of her big passions. But she's not super confident about her singing skills, so she joined Zoe's sort of as a way to challenge herself. And then she was kind of scared about the whole thing. It was great. And she talked about what a great experience it was and all that stuff. So I loved all of that. And they were great. And then I also related to that. The reason Ted Danson was there was for the Cheers reunion, which I went to and was probably my favorite thing I saw. They set it up at the Austin City Limits space, which was not a bad space to have a big event. We lost the Draft House as presentation space, but they managed to work around what they had lost and what they had now. And they had set up a bar on the stage that basically looked like a bar and a couple of tables. It was like the Cheers set, very small version of. And they did a reading of the pilot with actors who were at the festival. And so David Walton from Bent and I mean, I know he's from other things, but About
a Boy, and obviously Perfect Couples that no one's seen.
I think David Walton is a fantastic actor. I've loved him in everything I've seen him in, and he nailed it as Sam. Like, so good that I'm like, I don't want you to reboot Cheers, but if you reboot Cheers, you should cast him as
when
Sam.
you reboot Cheers.
When you reboot Cheers,
but when you do it.
And similarly, they didn't do blocking or anything. They all sat like at tables and they read the thing. But from Primo, Christina Vidal read Rhea Perlman's part, and she was also fantastic in that part. They, what was kind of funny is they had Harold Perrineau was there for running From, so he voiced Norm, which you think is like, oh, that's a cool role. And I kind of felt bad for him because in the pilot, Norm's got like 3 lines.
Really?
Yeah, he does not have that much to say. But he's got some funny lines. But anyway, it was a ton of fun. And what's interesting is that I've seen that pilot probably 100 times, and they still got laughs out of me. That pilot script is so good, and the performances were so good. And one of the people who was with me, she had never seen Cheers ever, and she loved seeing the pilot that way. She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna have to watch Cheers now." So it really worked for both old fans and new fans. So, and then after that, they brought out John Ratzenberger, George Wendt, Ted Danson, Glenn Charles, Les Charles, and James Burrows, and had a big 30-minute long panel about Cheers, and it was amazing. Danson was like the most he was basically talking about how that without the chemistry for Shelley Long, he's like, I don't think I would have gotten cast. He's like, I really owe a lot to Shelley Long, which I thought was like, that's humble, but come on, man, you know who you were on that show. But he was like the most humble, nice person. And they were telling stories about what sounded like a pretty bawdy atmosphere at Cheers. They were telling a story about how Woody came aboard and he was a, pot smoking vegetarian, and they all loved him, but they all did like prank each other. But at some point, Woody by accident was eating the craft services and got some pork. And they were like, hey man, you know that's pork. And so they're like, the best thing you want to do is probably binge. So he went to throw up, and Danson and Ratzenberger and I think Wendt all went to puke with him in solidarity. And they're talking about how they're puking and they're laughing, and they're like, and they basically were like, never puke and laugh at the same time. And what was great about that is when he starts telling the story, Ted Danson looks over and he's like, I thought that you were about to tell that story. And it was just like, it was basically like watching a bunch of old friends get together. They talked about how they hadn't seen each other in a while, and that the festival was a great time for them just to hang out. And it was a lot of fun. Ratzenberger's not as sharp as he used to be. He didn't quite get all the jokes, I think, and maybe he didn't quite understand sometimes when people were like making jokes. But he was not terrible, which I was worried about because some of the things he said online has been terrible. And for a panel featuring 6 old white men, nothing really bad was said, and I feel like that was a win.
Hey, now you got to take the win where you can get it.
Yeah.
I will say it was notable, and Danson did call it out. It was notable that there was no Rhea Perlman.
Yeah, what the fuck?
There was no Shelley Long. I understand why. Rhea Perlman's busy. Like, she's a lot of working. Maybe she could make it. Shelley Long has a fractious relationship with the show. Like, I can totally see why they weren't there. And obviously, Kirstie Alley just passed away. But, like, it was weird that there were no women on that stage, especially at ATX, where diversity is such a big thing. Like, they are so good about that.
Yeah, I mean, and Ted Danson isn't an unbusy dude.
No, yeah. Yeah, I feel like he must have been the guy that they got. They're like, we got Ted Danson. What do we do?
Who else can we get?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Sure.
I'm also surprised they didn't do anything about Good Place while he was like, they didn't get anybody else from Good Place. I mean, they did a Good Place podcast a few years back, so maybe they decided that wasn't worth getting. But I would have said that would have been a great time to bring in someone else from the Good Place.
Sure. No Becker.
Where's Holly Hunter at? We could have at least had like a low key Mr. Mayor.
I love that you went Mr. Mayor and I went even like even more obscure with Becker.
I was about to say we could get Alex Dessert from PCU.
I've never seen
to the Becker.
I've never seen Becker, and I've never watched Danson's Damages. And I realized, I've got some Ted Danson to watch at some point. So that made me happy.
Is it Bored to Death where he's Schwartzman's
I've seen
boss?
all of Bored to Death, and Bored to Death is delightful. And he's the stoner boss. It's great.
I see. I think after our DiCaprio marathon, we can maybe do You Should Be Dancing.
But he didn't. No, those are we don't do movies.
I thought we already agreed,
Les,
that we were doing a Tatum marathon after.
That's right. We're gonna do a Channing Tatum marathon. What was the name of it, Nick?
It was Tatum damn near killed him.
That's the one.
Right. I need you guys to be honest with me. Are we doing a Tatum marathon? Is he in Critters 4 somehow?
No, to
So
the
I'm not
best of my
falling for it
knowledge,
again.
all of his movies are watchable.
I'm not falling for it again. I also saw the Minx panel, which showed the season 2, episode 1 of Minx, which moved over to Stars, which means Stars now has 2 good shows, Party Down and Minx. And Jake Johnson is as delightful and funny in person as you would expect to be from all his performances, and he was great. And Ophelia Lovibond, great name, is the other lead, and she was there. The two of them had great chemistry. They were a ton of fun to watch. Daniel Feinberg was the moderator. He did a really great job with it. They talked a lot about how many dicks there are on Minx, and just had a great time.
Sure.
It was a blast. It was a lot of fun to hear those guys talk. So
I imagine it's some sort of like equalization. Like, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. So for every topless scene is in Game of Thrones, there has to be a bottomless dude scene somewhere, and this is just where they ended up.
Yeah, Minx is probably evening up the dick gap, so that's good. That's nice.
The dick gap. Just breaking through that dick ceiling.
Any other highlights for you?
No, I think that about covered it. I was just honestly so relieved that it was still the fest that I remembered.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to go last year, even though I know it happened. I was out of town. And then the previous years were, lost to time.
Right. Yeah. The only ones I missed, I think, are the virtual ones. I think I've been to every other ATX TV Fest. So I wasn't gonna go this year, just timing and that kind of thing. And then last minute, got the press pass because of Cheers, and I'm so glad I did. I had a great time. I forget how good the show is.
Hey, you know who is in Critters 4, Randy?
Who?
Angela Bassett. We could do a retrospective of her career, investigating which movies are up to her standards and which are not. We call ourselves the Bassett Hounds.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Man, I don't need to do my cardio for this week because that was such a long walk. God damn.
Let's have our side dishes here. I'm gonna talk real quick, and we can talk about Based on a True Story, which I have watched all 8 episodes of, and y'all watched some of.
Les watched 2. I watched 3.
And what were your all's general thoughts?
Man, this show doesn't know what the fuck it is.
That is correct.
I've never seen a show. Usually a show will go back and forth in tone, like, oh, it's too light now and then too dark. This show is, I don't know what the tone is in any given moment.
Yeah, all at once, it's right and wrong.
It's ostensibly a comedy, I think.
The tone is part of the problem. Also, this is a very simple high concept.
Mm-hmm.
It's a couple that's out of their luck. They accidentally meet a serial killer. She's a murder podcast fanatic, and they decide to do a murder podcast with that serial killer. That is a really great high concept.
Yeah,
and I don't know how they muddied it this much.
They overcomplicate it, and because the show takes itself more seriously, they have to do a bunch of stuff. If it was sillier, if it was a parody, if it was like what the girl at the window or whatever was trying to do, you wouldn't have to question, like, oh, you're not gonna kill anybody, right? Yeah, sure. No more. Sure. Wink. What was that wink?
I know they're trying to do an interesting thing, like a new thing of having this. It's the couple that are driving the thing, like they want to rope this serial killer in, and so. But to do that, they spend 2 full episodes doing this like contortion to try to justify why they're so broken somehow.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm speaking from a place of experience here. They're going to use a podcast as a get-rich-quick scheme to make $1 million, and that is fucking crazy. Like, there's no amount of show that convinces me of that, and it is so simple. You don't need to try to do it. It's dumb to have them roped into it. This has already been done as a documentary kind of thing with Behind the Mask, The Rise of Leslie Vernon, and it's great. Doing that as a podcast, we could have opened at episode 3 with the first episode, and the serial killer slowly explaining to these 2 people who live on mic are realizing that they've been roped in to produce a podcast for a guy who's probably actually done the things he's talking about, or something like that. I don't know. Just start from there.
Yeah.
Start the first episode should start in a basement where they think they're going to get killed, and he reveals a podcasting mic.
Well, you know
Yes,
what?
there it was. You start in a dark room with the three of them. You don't show the mics, and you have it look like they're tied to chairs, and the guy is telling them about what he's going to do Dexter style. And in the middle of the threatening Dexter monologue, ZipRecruiter. That's why I always use code 12345.
And that's a tone thing. That would have been if they wanted. They want this to be about Everybody wants to do fucking stories about suburban ennui, and I don't give a shit.
Well, they have such rich people problems. He's not going to be able to the head coach at the tennis club anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I like all these Chris Messina, Kaylee Cuoco, and the guy who's playing the serial killer. All very charming, very likable actors playing the worst people in the fucking world.
Yeah.
And not interesting in the way like Barry shows you how you can play bad people interestingly and funny. And this is not that.
This made me want Santa Clarita Diet back so bad.
Yeah.
Well, the serial killer, honestly, when he takes over in Ep 3 basically, and it starts to run shit, and he's like, oh, if this is a conversation, right? Yeah, of course, until it isn't.
Yeah.
But he's definitely got final say on everything that they're gonna do, and they just don't have I don't understand how they feel they have any power in this situation.
Well, their threat initially is we'll go to the police, and then as soon as they're complicit with him, they can't do that.
No,
they've got no power. They already lied and
they are so complicit, so quick.
They're stuck fast. And so the other thing about this, beyond the premise problems, beyond the tone problem, I watched all 8 episodes, and part of that was it was compelling enough to keep me going, and because I like the characters, and I just wanted to see where the fuck they were going with it. They have this whole weird runner about him and his dog that he sold to his friend that goes into a really fucking dark place, like almost too dark for me to go to. Sure. And they also have this weird, they're talking about infidelity, and they use dream sequences over and over again to the point where I don't know how much is real anymore. I'm like, wait, is this a dream sequence? This feels like it's a dream sequence. And usually it is, and it's overused and it's too much. But I kept watching because every episode they would end with something where I'm like, well, shit, that's an interesting turn. What are you going to do with it? And then every episode they would do the least interesting thing with it, but I would keep being hauled back in. And at that point it was sunk cost. I was like, well, 5 episodes in, I'm like, well, shit, I at least want to see where they end it. And they don't fucking end it. It's a cliffhanger. And here's the thing.
Fuck you.
If you're making a weird show like this, make leave it open to do more, fine, but don't leave it on a fucking cliffhanger, because the odds are good in this world, in this streaming time, you're not getting a second season. You have told me half a story, and it's not an interesting half a story. We talked about this on Spider-Verse. So you can tell me half a story if it's really good, and I'm pretty sure you're going to nail the ending. But if you can tell me, if you tell me a mediocre half story,
maybe they have is there a deal that they have 2 seasons on that? Whenever, sometimes that happens.
I still wouldn't count on that shit. Oh no, I'm sorry. Your second season deal was with Peacock. We're simply the.
But that also falls through all the time. So
and
I still wouldn't do it. But
you tell your fucking story. Everybody in streaming TV should know this by now. And that's one of the things I respect when a show ends a season. If you tell me a story, even if I wouldn't have sent the story, I at least respect you told a story that ended. But yeah, this whole thing, there are interesting characters, even though they're all pretty hateful and awful, but the tone is off, and it's a mess where I thought it could have been good. And it's a waste of perfectly good talent, which is a shame.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I will not finish it out. And
I finished it. I wouldn't recommend it. I would not recommend it.
Especially now knowing that it does not have an ending. I would even be more mad.
Yeah, I was not happy when I realized
how to end it. If we want to switch over to American born Chinese.
Yeah, let's talk about American born Chinese.
The way they ended it was the way to do it, because they have an ending where they wrap up the story, and then there's a coda on it, like a little extra, but here might be the big bad of season 2 sort of thing. Right.
Yeah.
The big bad of season 1 is wrapped up.
And it's somebody you've already seen, and it's somebody could come at him as it's good. It's just enough tease. But at the same time, if they don't get a season 2, I saw the whole story.
Yes. Yeah. And this is the reverse. We watched all of this, and Randy, you watched 3 episodes?
I watched 4 episodes.
Oh, 4 episodes. So you're halfway through it, basically.
Yeah,
I'm
saw
halfway
half.
through. Yeah.
I recommend finishing it out.
I might, for whatever reason, the Disney stuff, the vibe of Disney stuff is not grabbing me right now. And I love this graphic novel, but for whatever reason, this is not grabbing me. It's fun, but it's not like must watch, and I keep going to other stuff instead.
Well, don't get me wrong, because it is there's weird structure things going on here because there's a lot of Disney family stuff going on and not focusing on like we take a long time to even understand what's going on with the mythical like heaven Monkey King shit.
Jin doesn't know anything until like Ep 3, I think.
Yeah. But where I was really sold was episode 4, I think, was the flashback, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And normally Nick hates a flashback, man.
Yeah, I hate flashbacks. But the idea of telling the flashback in it's halfway between an old kung fu movie and a sitcom. And it's really funny. Like it's really neat and has a great feel to it and also endears you to the villain. Like you understand why the villain is mad and pissed. Like, no, your dad's a piece of shit. Like and fucked me over. And I'm like after the end of that, I'm like, man, am I supposed to come out of this like not like still on the Monkey King side? Because I'm kind of Team Bull now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He loses me as he goes crazier villain, but yeah, man, at the start of it, I'm like, yeah, the Monkey King's a dick.
But even the main kid can really sell some comedy with some of his when he's talking with that with the girl and has this awkward little level of humor, like the we're talking about the sweaters that he's about to wear, the hot stuff sweaters.
Oh yeah.
Oh, did you end up getting that? Yeah, I got 6 of them every day of the week, and 1 extra on laundry day. Well, can I have one? No, they're a set. And he says it in this deadpan way that's like actually really funny. I'm like, dude, good for you. You're really nailing this.
And it works really quickly to establish that like, oh, nobody else in the school might see it, or they might give him crap about like dating out of his league or whatever. But like, you can see the moment immediately where she's like gets that joke, gets the way it was delivered, and they bond for just a moment. And then very quickly they establish a really good like he's the only person she acts really completely normal around. Like it's to really just be yourself.
Well, they also time jump for like a month during the story. Yeah, it's so that can progress further.
That's nicely done.
And the bullying in it is not, well, I mean, it's even hard to say that it's bullying. It's a lot of it is hazing because he's trying to join the soccer team, and a lot of it is just teenagers being kind of shitty, which is not the same thing as bullying, I don't think. But and they're shitty in a way that teenagers are. Like they're not even trying to be that shitty. Like even his main his main kid Travis or whatever his name is has a punchable face for sure, but even he's kind of just it's not like he's trying to kick him off the soccer team or destroy his relationship with the new girl. He's just kind of
he just kind of ribs him.
He just kind of ribs him and takes pleasure in other people's misfortune more than he probably should.
Yeah.
And which is, on the spectrum, I'd rather have that than Stephen King bullies who are ready to murder at the drop of a hat.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people in Stephen King novels have like half of a word carved into their stomach and shit. Yeah, this is just like you put you in a meme and was shitty about it, and like, yeah.
It felt like a real high school, I think, is what I liked about it.
Yeah, I found myself enjoying this more and more each episode. At the end of Ep 2, I was like, if we were short on time, I feel like I've watched enough. And Nick was like, we've got time before, let's throw a third one on. By the end of Ep 3, I was like, okay, that's starting to combine we're starting to get into the heaven fight shit. That's cool. And then we watched Ep 4, which was just bonkers. And then 5, 6, 7, and 8 actually flowed by really quick. The one thing that made that happen and is also annoying to me, I know I've praised in the past the ability of shows to just write to whatever beats feel right. I take it all back. There should be 22 episode comedies. There should be 40 whatever minute hour long things. Like I want the structure back so bad. Binging
the episodes get shorter.
Man, I could not figure out how many episodes or what episode we were in because the first one's like 45 minutes. It's like that bit in the fucking Jerk. Like the first episode felt like a day and the second episode was an hour, but the third episode was 4 days.
Yeah, Ronnie Chang is in here. Basically any fucking Chinese actor you've ever seen is in here.
Mm-hmm.
And including basically the entire cast from Everywhere All at Once.
Yeah, Stephanie Su.
What's his name? The guy
James
from
Hong.
Everywhere. James Hong? Is
Well,
that his name?
no. Yeah, James Hong, but also
James Hong is in there, yeah.
I am blanking on
Academy
Award
Everywhere.
winner.
Yeah, the Academy Award winner. His story is weird because they don't thread it through the entire thing. It's a background racist 90s show joke that they show. And then somewhere in the 6th episode, they start to show him recently now. And that threads through for a little bit. And then it culminates to our main character watching a video of the reunion of that show. And it felt like a really long walk. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I bet you this was sprinkled throughout the comic in a different way. I would love to actually, after you're done with it, let me know how they handled this part of it. The what was it called? Repair time? Repair?
You know what? I haven't reread it.
Beyond
so
Repair.
I
Beyond
need to reread the
Repair.
graphic novel.
Yeah. What could go wrong?
Ki Hu Kwan.
Yeah.
Is Ki Hu Kwang is the actor playing Wong or whatever his character's name is in Beyond Repair.
Yeah.
It just felt disconnected from the story to me in a weird way that to only really interact with it one time in such an interstitial kind of transitional way felt kind of tertiary. I don't know, other big words. But yeah, the wire work also is really impressive for it was weird, the first scene with the Monkey King, it had some really shitty wire work.
It's unfortunate. The opening scene had the worst in the whole series. And I think it's the young actor, it's Jimmy Liu, the young actor that plays Wei-Chin. And it's not that he's bad at it, it's that he's in a movie where the other people doing wire work are Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, you've got absolute legends here. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that might be doing you a disservice.
Yeah, as soon as she and I think her
and the Bull King have a fight in the middle of an apartment. That's really cool.
Oh, that is a good fight. Yeah, I like that one.
And it's
and Ronnie Cheng, he can fucking.
Ronnie Cheng has a drunken fight, which is drunken fights are always great. Drunken master fights, but a lot of the fighting in this show, the one thing I don't like about the ending is that when they start to fly and do the Dragon Ball Z bullshit, I'm like, God damn it! I really liked the martial arts in this, but
all you can do flying is tackle and run, wrap your arms around people. You immediately lose the fight of it.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're doing really cool the wire fu that I like, which is accentuating they're gods and celestial beings, so they can kind of do shit that a regular human can't do.
Yeah.
So they can walk on their toes while bent at a 90-degree angle, or do one finger push-ups
yeah.
And yeah, it's really solid acting and action. Just wish the story was structured in a little different way so it didn't feel it feels really disjointed, that our main character Jin doesn't meet Michelle Yeoh's character until the very end. And I was like, oh shit, that's right, they haven't met. Because their stories haven't really interacted as much as I feel like they should have. But
there's even a moment where they should have met and they don't. And then when they do meet later, it's like, oh yeah, y'all haven't yet. It could be that
8 episodes is kind of, especially when the last 3 are very short. It's a pretty short amount of time to get a lot of these stories in, which I would have shortened it up with. Spend a little bit less time on the parents, honestly. And it's not like their story is bad. I think the parents are good actors and they're interesting, but they're not really. I don't know. I just feel like again, maybe I should read the comic, because the comics seems like it's.
The comics I remember is very different.
It seems autobiographical, really trying to capture every aspect of growing up Chinese American.
Yeah.
And in that sense, it does cross the entire spectrum with the parents, the actor, the kid, the high school kid, the fantasy stuff, and like. So yeah, I definitely a high recommend.
Cool.
Same.
Yeah, I will need to finish it out. I have not finished it out. So, all right, I think that wraps it up for us this week on a longer than usual episode, which hopefully y'all enjoyed. We got our ATX coverage in this time. Everyone's recording, right? We all recording?
Yes.
Don't worry.
Oh fuck.
Well, it won't be such a long episode then.
Right.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Les.
Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Nick.
Thanks, dudes.
I also want to, I can end this episode. Fanny just texted me an update on her Breaking Bad
Ooh.
watching. She's clearly watching Breaking Bad episodes right now. This is all caps. Every single letter in this entire text is caps.
Cool.
OMFG, Jesse dropped straight through the roof of the porta potty. Holy fuck.
That is delightful.
Yes. I am loving this. I'm loving this so much.
We'll be back with more next week, and until that time,
TV Dude's out.
We should all have everyone in our lives that texts us Breaking Bad plots as they're watching them.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, this is a new thing I need to do. I need to find someone to I need you to binge a show and tell me your reactions to it.
Right,
just
right.
Text me live.
Right. I just want to find out when friends are watching Good Place for the first time.
Yeah.
And then just sit silently and wait for just the joy to flood your inbox as they go, fuck!
Dude, through most of this episode, not sure why it's called The Red Wedding yet.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.